Welcome to the Going North podcast, where you will be informed, encouraged, and empowered to embrace your dreams and advance in life through authorship. I'm your host, best-selling author of the book Stay the Course, and certified leadership trainer, Dom Reitman. Be sure to check out the goods and services from every guest, as well as the host himself, yours truly. Now let the fun begin. This episode is sponsored by one of my favorite humans on the planet and one of the top listeners of this show, Stan the Man McCluskey, for his awesome audiobook, Divorce is Worse Than Death. You can check him out on episode 292.5. The link will be in the show notes. And also, yours truly is the voice behind the audiobook version of the book. So after you're done listening to this, or while you're listening to this, go on ahead, head over to audible.com, click on the wonderful link, purchase that audiobook by yours truly, and support my man Stan. Now let's get on with the show. And today on the High Live Real Builder for Authors, known as the Going North podcast, I got to thank my good buddy, that's right, my good friend who's been on this podcast before, the legendary, sensational Stanley McCluskey, for hooking me up with this fabulous human right here, folks. This fabulous human right here, because today, folks, we not only have an author, but he's also a speaker, publisher, and creator, folks. My man knows how to create stuff, baby. The creator of a new heart divorce recovery services and pre-engagement coaching. You heard that right, folks. Pre-engagement coaching. Before you officially tie that knot, folks, before you officially do it. And my man is a legend because he has so much to offer. And he's also a man of the cloth, baby. So let's give it up for the one and only WET himself, Minister William Edward Turner. How you doing today, sir?
I am doing great. It's a blessed day to be alive. The sun was out and I got out in it, had my 2 masks on, experience that I'll never forget. You can't breathe, but but you're covered. And I'm a survivor of COVID virus, so, I'm going to get the t-shirt sooner or later, but, trying to wait till I get my vaccines in first. But nevertheless, as you were saying, I have, about 20 books on Amazon. Basically, they're dealing with relationships, and my books are a little different than most people's. My books are designed as sort of teaching structured textbooks. In other words, you don't read it and say, oh, okay, I know that and I'm good. You read it and each page is basically, you apply that page to your life. You practice that particular thing. That's what's moving you ahead. And as I tell most people, don't focus on the other person changing, focus on you changing. Because if you change your perspective, you have a better method of understanding what the other person is doing, as well as your response may be a lot different than if you didn't have this knowledge. One of the things that I do in a lot of my books, and some of them seem repetitive because they're dealing with the same elements of different things. Like in the pre-engagement book and the book, Can You Hear Me Now? Both of them have in it the communication fast. And the communication fast is a fast that deals with developing communication between the two of you, but you can eat anything you want. So, don't have to worry about that part. But it starts off with one of the things that I thought was the craziest thing that I ever heard was no negative communication and no displays of anger. And then after I looked at that, I said, hey, we do that all the time, except we usually do it at work. When the boss or the person next to us says something negatively, we may not display that anger and we may not have that negative conversation because we want to come back tomorrow and we want that paycheck. But we get it home and then it's like, what do you mean I put the toothpaste on wrong? And so we explode, you didn't put the cap on the toothpaste, or the toilet paper is on backwards. All those different kinds of things come about. And what I'm saying is take that same caring spirit and awareness home and do those same things there. And that's just step one. Step two gets into praying for each other. We get into discussions about talking about our lives, our parents, what made me think about marrying you, and all those different types of things happen in the pre-engagement coaching book. And the pre-engagement coaching is what I do. And all this birth out of me being a what I call a serial divorcee. And before there was the time when I came to Christ, but I was a churchgoer, and there's a difference between being a churchgoer versus being someone that is following Christ, trying to apply those principles. You never get to the point where you just, you're so good that you just float through the air. And you just float through the air because you were just so holy. But the thing about it is that taking the time to learn, to not look at, okay, Essence Magazine says, if you have this and you have that, that's going to make your relationship good. But then 3 months later, Essence Magazine dishes that part and says, you got to have this and you got to have that. So you're always going back and forth. But the word of God is consistent. It doesn't change, whether it's feast, famine, COVID-19, whether you're employed or unemployed, or whether you're sick or well, or they're sick or well. It's always the same, and it's steadfast. So those are the principles that I base the activities in the pre-engagement coaching books. And they deal with developing that trust. And one of the things is that I was just doing an ad today, and one of the things that I said is save your marriage before it starts. And a lot of times we have to look at men, particularly, go into marriage with not the slightest idea other than, I don't want this honey getting away from me. I need to nail her down, As Beyonce says, put a ring on it. So I put a ring. So I put a ring on it, and I don't know what to do with it after then, because I didn't play with the doll houses. I don't know how family is organized other than what I saw my mom and pop doing. And basically, I was running out the house with my mom and pop. It's like, Mom, can I go? Dad, can I go? I wasn't trying to study their behavior and all this other kind of stuff. And the only reason I learned to cook, because they were asleep and I was in late and she wasn't getting up fixing no more. So those different kinds of things happen. So as I looked at that, oftentimes men are in extended adolescence. Mm. So you're trying to move from extended adolescence into marriage, and you don't have a clue other than, what you saw on TV, the Huxtables or Blackish or something like that, and they never go to the bathroom. So you have to understand there is something wrong with that picture, because you're going to go. and there's a whole lot of other mess that doesn't happen that you don't see them doing. You don't see them trying to move a dollar from here to over here to make ends meet, or who's going to dig in their pocket, give me that $5, I'll give it back to you later when I get back, because I need to get some gas, all those different types of things. And if you don't have the communication set, and I deal with one of the things that I deal with that is not so controversial, but it just needs to be talked about, is whose money is it? Because if the two become one, it's our money, not your money or not my money. And it's not about who makes the most money gets to spend the money. So if you don't come to grips with that coming into the relationship, then there's going to be a problem down the road. Money becomes a tool of a weapon to where I'm going to keep you from doing this when I get mad, and you're going to keep me from doing that when you get mad. We're not going to be intimate because you told me to take back that dress, or whatever happened, or you're going to go out and be with the boys half the night or all night because I didn't let you buy those new shoes or that car. You wanted that Mustang or you wanted that Ferrari, and it's like, yeah, we could do the Ferrari, but we can't eat, so you're not getting the Ferrari. Don't be mad at me. Going out with the boys ain't gonna make it any better. One of my rules is if you're mad and upset, do not leave the house, because once you leave the house, the mind goes haywire. It's about trying to figure out, oh, you might do this and you might do that. And all these things are rolling around in the mind, and you cannot control that because, if you turn on The Bachelor and you see the guy sleeping with 3 people, in the same program, you're wondering what's going on here. Now, is my husband or is my spouse, she out doing this? All those different kinds of things. You don't have to stay up daytime and watch Days of Our Life or anything like that. But, all these things will come into the mind. And the thing about it is knowing how to protect yourself from the pitfalls that come along, including sharing on hard to talk about subjects like disability, about mental health, about family diseases that may be down the road, about do you have any diseases that I need to know about? Do you have any pending legal action that is going to come up later on because you're on extended probation that I don't know about, and you just have to meet once a year or something like that. And then we go out and the police stop us because of a tail light, and then they get to search the car because you're on probation. So, and we both standing outside in the cold, but I didn't know nothing about that, So all those different kinds of things, those things have to be discussed. And oftentimes we know we're in the lovey-dovey. It feels so good. The float of the moment, the happily ever after, we're living out the storybook rather than living real life. And we don't tend to be prepared for that. And oftentimes we get even married for the wrong purposes. I raise my hand. I'm one of them. I got married because my friends got married. They married their girlfriend. So I'm going to marry my girlfriend too. So I married my girlfriend, and it was like, dude, you have made a mistake. But it's easy to get in. It's a lot harder to get out, And so you try to make it work, and you're living in misery, and you're trying to make it work and keep your best smile and face up. And over time, you drive each other away, and it can end, as I say, it ends, maybe you're like, good riddance, it's over. But always, it's like having chewing gum in the carpet. Part of the gum stays in the carpet, and part of the carpet comes with the gum. So you got a situation that you shouldn't have been in if you knew better. And the thing is that I've always realized is that when I look at things from the past, I can see some things that I made a mistake in. It's just like when you have the car accident, it's like I shouldn't have been in such a hurry. I should have stopped longer at that stoplight or stop sign, those kind of things. I knew I should have scraped that snow off the back window and I could have seen the person. All those different kinds of things. But if you got somebody that is going to give you the heads up, your chance of not having the divorce is greater. And that's the thing that I'm about. is cutting the chance of having the divorce. Now that's with the pre-engagement side that I do. But I also run 2 divorce support groups. And the reason I started those is because being a serial divorcee, I found that if you get divorced, you're kind of like floating in the middle in the body of Christ. And even in society, you're kind of like, you're not married, you're not single, you kind of got your guard up, you got a hedge of protection around you and a moat and all that kind of stuff. I remember, don't hug me, I don't want to be hugged, leave me alone, go away, back off. But at the same time, I wanted to be with somebody. And it was like all this mixed stuff and emotions was going on, and you're looking at, in the daytime, you're upset because you got to go over here to the lawyers and give away half your property, and as I always say, an ounce of protection is worth half your property. So if you can make some changes and some things coming up front, you won't have to deal with that. But the emotional trauma and the financial trauma, as well as the trauma on the kids that you have after a divorce, is just epic. And what happens is you cannot talk to someone who has not been through that and they understand you. So you need a place to vent. You need a place to talk about. You need somebody to let you know, hey, you're going through that and you're wondering how to do that. And because somebody else in the group has already been through it, they can say, look, you need to go down to court and get you this form or that form, or you need to talk to this people. That's illegal. They can't do that. You need to get somebody that's going to help you keep your kids. Just because he makes more money, he don't get to steal the kids from you, and or her steal the kids. And all those different types of things happen, as well as dealing with the emotional thing. He cheated on me and now he's marrying the girlfriend that he was cheating on across the street. All that emotion and dealing with raising the child. And that's not just from the young age, but it goes through college even, situations where now you got to go visit the college with your ex and your child. So you go and visit the college with your ex and your child and the emotional things that you go through, but you're trying to keep your child happy because they want to have both parents there. They love you both, but there's that rift between you. And oftentimes you don't know how strong you are until you have to go through those. But it's always great to have a group that you can share something in. And we have basically one rule, and that rule is what's said here stays here. So when you talk about, he or she was, the worst thing since Hurricane Katrina, you can say, and nobody's going to hear that outside the group. We just know you said it. We know you're venting. And even then, sometimes we even pray for each other's children in group or that person, because there are things that are going on that the children respond to. And some of them don't, they're very nice up until they get to the point of being in high school. And then that rebellious streak comes out because they can escape and get away. They've had a few privileges and that kind of stuff. And they don't come home that Friday night and you don't see them until the next morning. And you don't know what to do, holler and scream, put them on punishment or what have you. And you make some choices and you have to live with them choices, because when they on punishment, you on punishment. And a lot of times we don't understand that, I can't go nowhere, because I got to keep them here on punishment. I have to keep my word. I can't say, okay, well, you've been on punishment 2 days and I told you 2 weeks. Go ahead, go somewhere. That doesn't work, because next time, they'll stay out 2 days And so you don't want those things happening. And the experience of the group allows you to vent these things and work these things out. And people share their experience, strength, and hope. So it just helps you out. And then the whole idea about pre-engagement is to not let you get to the situation of divorce. And people that have take the pre-engagement coaching usually have a 31% better chance of not being divorced. Because if they're applying those principles, they've developed that trust. They know that if a person says X, Y, and Z, and I talked about that in affirmations and undivided attention, that you understand that this person may be expressing themselves, but I know they still love me. They still have my back, because we've shared different things. We developed that trust before we got married. And therefore, as we get married and the challenges come, we know how to deal with that stuff together. So, what questions, comments, or concerns do you have?
Man, I can go in so many different directions because with so many past guests we've had in different areas. There's folks who help you to find love, and then there's folks who talk about managing life after you tie the knot. And it's like, oh God, like yeah, they could be worse than Hurricane Katrina, which is so
Yes.
true. So my goodness. So with being a serial divorce, serial divorcee, and being able to create this content to help folks not go the same route that you did and many others have, what's probably been your biggest, I'd say, concern over these past few months with the aftermath of the initial hit of COVID? Because I'm pretty sure a lot of folks probably wish they did a lot of pre-engagement coaching with you before something like that hit.
Yes. One of the things that I've saw, and it's kind of like a two-edged sword. In one side, there's been a 30% increase in divorces. But on the other side, there's been like a 20% decrease or a 30% increase in marriages, because people are finding that, when you're isolated, you have to develop that communication, because, Sally lives here and I live here, and we're talking about stuff we never talked about because I was trying to keep the peace because I wanted to be sure I got the yummy, And so I'm not so concerned about because you ain't getting it because we got to stay apart, but now I'm learning who that person is. And then on the other hand, the divorces happen because I have nowhere to hide. I can't go around and say I'm at the bar when I ain't at the bar. I can't go to the grocery store and say I ain't at the grocery store because they done closed at 8. And, they ain't open all night anymore. And all those different types of things happen. So it's placed stresses on relationships that made you really look at who am I as well as who am I with? Do I have that understanding partner, or have I been ignoring this person in my life that is really good for me, but they're not the person that I feel that meets my, style that I want to be in. I might want to be in the bling bling atmosphere, but the bling bling person doesn't care a thing about me. But this other person is like, hey, they have my heart. They have my interests. They're concerned about where I'm going and what I'm doing. So this is the thing that I look at, is that I don't want us to come out of the pandemic and no longer have those things that we look at, taking a serious look at our relationships and then go back to, okay, now the divorce rate is 60% and first time marriages is this and second time marriages is much higher. When, as I said in the beginning, you can save your marriage before you start. So, and by that is knowing who are you? And that's a good part, knowing who you are and why you're getting married. And I usually start with that. And we've got a couple of lists of stuff and things that you go through that you need to write out something and say, why am I getting married? No, I'm not getting married to have a sugar daddy or a sugar mama, or I'm getting married because I just want something warm in the bed. There's all those things that people get married because they think marriage must be great because look at Sally and Johnny, but we don't know what Sally and Johnny talk about other than the looks, I was one of those people that was in what I call a red carpet marriage, where we shined on the red carpet, but we got home and there wasn't no talking, wasn't no nothing, touch me, get away, all that, but on the red carpet, we were there. As I would often say, shoot, we look better than the models, so, but inside there was just that facade of being that, not the loving, caring person that you thought you had. And I know sometimes I was disillusioned because, man, I thought, oh, we must be having a good night. This is going to happen at home. But it didn't, to my surprise. And then there were often things that I didn't know that I wasn't doing to cultivate that. And often men don't know it's their responsibility to cultivate and create that atmosphere for growth, that atmosphere to where the marriage is going to blossom. We just think that it's going to happen by magic, and magic just does not happen. It's even magic. The magician has to train for magic. So you have to realize that you have to put in the timing and the training, and you're not born with marriage skills. They are learned.
That is powerful right there. That was the first time I heard having about the magician needing to be trained first before performing the magic, because it's so darn true. They have to be trained. They have to be an apprentice, like with a lot of things, especially decades ago. You had to be an apprentice at something before you become a master at anything. So in addition to communication skills, which is probably the top thing on the list, are there two other skills that you recommend couples should hone or practice before tying the knot in addition to communication?
One is having your marriage plan. You need to have a plan in life of what is our marriage purpose. How are we going to be effective in our life? Where are we going? Also talking about what was my future goals without you, and do they mesh with you? Because if I'm setting down my college goal to be an archaeologist, to marry you, and you're going to be a community advocate, then we're going on two different directions. So how are we going to make that work? Can we make that work? And a lot of times, you just get in, oh, we're so in love, and you never talk about these things. So, understanding, are you on the same page? And that usually comes with being equally yoked, because being equally yoked is not just, are you a Christian, but are you in line in purpose and direction? Can you buy on that purpose? One of the things that I find with men and women is that we all have our guards up, We don't want to let the other one know what our purpose is, because, a lot of them have been trained is it's your purpose and don't tell everybody your everything, and the men do the same thing. But the real conversation about that is the woman or the man wants to see, how do I fit in your purpose? And can I tie into that? And if you never talk about it, if you stay guarded about it, then what happens is it becomes a rebellion later, because You're trying to fulfill your purpose. They're trying to fulfill their purpose, but you've never talked about it. And that's part of the marriage plan. One of the other things that I talk about is that you need to set up a new community. And that's what I called your marriage encouragement network. And in the marriage encouragement network, you develop relationships with other married couples, because you cannot go back and check with your buddies about, she said this to me, because they're going to give you something off the wall single mess. And you take that back to your family and your wife, you might be hit with the skillet, you know. And so what happens is that, you know, the same thing happens, you know, with the girls, you know, with the woman, you know, she can't take back what, you know, what is it, Cardi B said on her record back to her husband, you know, and expect it to go right, because that's from a single girl's perspective, not from a marriage person. But in the marriage network that you develop, the marriage encouragement network, you're dealing with, you're supposed to develop 8 different couples at different stages in their marriage. You know, the first one that's maybe been married less than 5. Then you get 5 to 10, 15 to 20, and then you want 30 and above. You know, and the whole idea is that you individually meet with these people, let them know that you would like them to be in your marriage encouragement network. And out of that group, you're going to find 1 or 2 people that you really connect with. So when you got trouble going on, you can go with somebody that's got some sound wisdom. You know, the woman that'll say, look, honey, I understand the man is crazy, but if you think about this, then you got to start over with another crazy man that you don't even know. You know, and then the husband can say, he can talk to somebody, and he can say, yeah, I understand, you don't understand, and I didn't understand either. But you know, you're gonna feel bad when somebody else gives us some flowers at work, and she bring them home, and she all happy about them, and you didn't take time to get her no flower. You know, some just because flowers. You know, so, you know, all those different kinds of things, you know, come along where you've got somebody else that has had that experience that can advise you and that you've become friends with, because you have to quickly form that new network, because the brothers you grew up with who are still single, or the sisters that you grew up with or went to college with that are still single, cannot advise you about your marriage. You know, they can only advise you about how single people respond to it. You know, you can't just say, here's your stuff in the corner in the box. You know, none of that. That doesn't work, you know, because if you put them out, you may not see them again. And then becomes the vendetta of, I got to get my this, I got to take my that. I've got to get my furniture that you guys worked so hard to pick out and put together, and all those other fantastic different things. And probably those things is that there's also a pattern of cultivating your relationship. I believe you should have pre-engagement coaching, you know, coaching before you decide that you're going to get married, or make that commitment. And the pre-engagement coaching helps you versus premarital coaching, because at premarital coaching, you've already told the family, you already told all these people. And if you discover that this guy or this woman is an axe murderer during your pre-engagement coaching, you're going to try to say, well, they'll change when they get me. You know? And you find out down the road that you wake up with an arm missing because you barely escaped. You know? So But nevertheless, with pre-engagement coaching, you find out there axe murder, you can just step it on off and keep going because you haven't made a till death do us part commitment to them. So they don't have to kill you to get rid of it. So those kind of things that happen. As you see, I kind of keep it light, I try to explain in a nice way that this is serious stuff. And besides that, one of the most serious foundations is that in marriage, we are building a community. We are laying the foundation for our children, laying the foundation for our community, as well as developing the things that need to happen. And one of the things that has happened now is that the African-American woman is the most sought after woman on the planet and the most educated woman on the planet. You got more doctors this and doctor that because they got doctorate degrees than anything. And then you're walking around, you was glad to get your bachelor's, but then you meet this girl and she's got that doctorate title and you feel inferior. So, but at the same time, you're also her equal because of that. But the thing is, if you don't put in a development plan, and as it has been, is that there's 4.1 million African-American entrepreneur women in the US. They've bring in $365 billion annually in revenue, and they employ 2.1 million people. But at the same time, 2.1 million people is very little for the number of people that we need to be employing in our community. As we find that Hispanics employ Hispanics, Asians employ Asians, Jewish employ Jewish people, white people employ white people, and Black people, we've employed very few Black people. So we haven't developed the community foundation and culture that is going to sustain us into the future. And with the family broken up like that, then we are at risk of staying at the consumer level rather than becoming a producer. And we need to be in producers and employers so that we can maintain our community and our place in society. We will not elevate beyond being the low wage people in terms of as a group if we don't begin to develop the community that is going to be able to employ our own people. And that's one of the foundations for the family and the thinking that needs to go in. And as I talked about, what's your mission statement? What is the purpose? What are you going to do? How are you going to affect the community? Because we have to look beyond my four and no more.
That's what I'm talking about, indeed. You're definitely right about that. Like, that's the biggest thing that's been probably affecting not like really the Black community in particular is the fact that like the family unit has been an assault on the family unit for decades.
Yes.
But and it's all and probably the root of it probably because they didn't have the pre-engagement coaching plan. To be honest, they didn't prepare beforehand. They may have saw the guy, may have saw that guy. I was like, oh yeah, let the quote unquote magic happen. And then the magic happens, then the little one appears, and then one of them disappears, and then one's left working behind, most likely the mom being a single mom and having to go into entrepreneurship just so she can raise the kids while running the business. And then it's like, okay, we're having the businesses, but hey, still gotta be able to have something to pass down to the kids and still have that family unit. So it's a lot of disjointed stuff going wrong that we're trying to repair now. I feel like.
Right. I totally agree.
Yes, indeed. So is there a particular question that you wish you'd be asked more often when you're being interviewed?
Let's see. I guess one of the questions is that why, and I'm not asking the question But maybe I am asking the question, why do we resist being prepared for marriage when we prepare for everything else? We'll go to basketball practice. We'll go to tennis practice. We'll even look at all the car ads and the housing ads before we purchase a house. But for the most valuable thing in our lives, we will not take a heads up to make it happen so that it's going to work out for us. We don't even consider that even in our colleges. I remember one time when I was coming up, probably dates myself, they used to have home economics in school. And they had home economics, but then they threw it out and said, I'm not taking home economics. I'm not going to be a housewife, or I'm not going to be. Well, the thing about it is you might not be a stay-at-home housewife, but you're going to be a housewife if you get married, no matter what. So having home economics under your belt meant that you knew how to keep the budget, you knew how to manage the food supply, all those different things. Those were building blocks to the family. And when you cut those things out, they left. The same thing with shop classes and some of the other outside things that used to be done. Intramural sports was one that helped you develop your ability to relate to other people on a sportsmanship level and not relate to them where I had to be violent about it. I had to have good sportsmanship when I lost, as well as good sportsmanship when I won. I had to be more understanding and able to handle my emotions and feelings. And those things happen in those ancillary things or additional things in school. And sometimes we streamline many things thinking that we're saving money when it's really costing us more on the other end.
Oh yeah, you can say that again, and you're definitely right about home economics. I remember getting a taste of it in sixth grade, just a taste of it, because I only had it for like I think probably like a month that I transferred to a private school where they didn't even have that, and that was 10 plus, probably 15 plus years ago when they took it out and took all these other classes out, and just folks are just left behind, like in so many different ways. So it's heck, even not only the pre-engagement coaching, but the coaching and the true teaching and training and initiation before the pre-engagement coaching, just making yourself the best version of yourself possible, even before thinking of marriage.
Exactly. So those things didn't happen, as well as, shop and all that got cut out. So, at least with shop, you may not have a job, but you knew how to make something,
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was you took electrical shop or you took, wood shop or whatever, but you had some other skills coming out the door that allowed you to be able to make something. If it wasn't, but hey, I can make a $20 selling these a day, whatever it was. You had something other, and you didn't have to go out and sling, or you didn't have to go out and bootleg, CDs or what have you. But it gave you some other skills and ways to make money, as well as 4-H clubs and all those things were taken out. And but the thing about it is, I know in some communities they still have that, But it's on us. I know that I had to restart the PTA in my daughter's school when she was young because people weren't coming. They would come to the parent-teacher meeting because they had to, and then they would complain, but they didn't want to come to the PTA so that we could make some changes, because a lot of times the change was, we need somebody that's got a good attitude in here, and their attitude is not, well, students are in here, I give them a book and I go about my business, that I'm spending time. And what I found is if you participate in PTA, teachers pay more attention to your student, to your kid. So if you want to get that excellence out of the teacher and your kid getting the attention that they need, you need to be participating in PTA or recreating one.
Oh, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, and speaking of going back in time, we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive. And that is, if you're to wake up tomorrow and you were 25 again, but this time in 2021 with all of your knowledge and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
Well, I would give to myself, number one, get some wisdom before you get married. That's number one. But also look around at the nerds are now the ones driving the Beamers and having the big house. And as I used to say, I should grow up and be a nerd, because being a nerd into the financial things, into what's happening political, into these things, rather than, can I do the latest dance? Can I sing the song? And am I going to have a girlfriend, and which one is doing the this and the that? All that kind of stuff was totally a waste of time, because yes, you did have some socialization skill, but it didn't take that long to get those. But if you would have learned about the stock market, if you'd have learned about some other things with the stock market, maybe you didn't have the money to buy it, but if you learned about option trading, on the stock market, that meant that you just traded other people's stock and made money off of that. And you can make money going up and going down. So all those different types of things, I think that if I would have learned about those things, but one of the major problems was having someone being willing to tell you that. Because one of the problems that I ran into before was there was the bourgeois generation. And the bourgeois generation was, we good and we ain't telling you, And with the bourgeois generation, they should have been moving the community up rather than trying to keep it all for themselves. And that's why our society stopped in its tracks, because that mindset of don't tell anybody else, what you're doing or how you're making your money didn't prosper the community. It only prospered you. And since you didn't tell anybody else, even when your kids got the money, they didn't know what to do it and they would lose it. Because I've seen it happen so much where this guy's got restaurants, he's got clubs, he's got all this kind of stuff. He dies, and in 4 years to 5 years, the kids have spent all the money, lost all the businesses, closed all the nightclubs and all that kind of stuff, because he didn't pass his knowledge on. And that's the same thing I look at entrepreneurs now, is that you may have the beauty shop, but did you teach your child about how to handle inventory, how to do the finances, how to set up a balance sheet and all those different kinds of things, how to talk with vendors? Did you teach your children this, or did you just buy them 3 pair of Nikes? All that kind of stuff. So that's the things that I would want to know if I was 25 years old.
Well, there you have it, folks. There you have it. Solid knowledge indeed. Solid knowledge indeed. Definitely share wisdom with other folks. That's another reason why podcasts are so big nowadays. You get to talk with folks who have expertise in a certain area, and boom, you can learn it for free. Learn it for free 99% of the time. And like, hey, this is the knowledge sharing era, and we're all better for it. And you don't lose anything by sharing, to be honest. Like most times, it's usually from a good place most of the time. There's some evil out there, but there's some good too. Always pay attention to the good. So for those who want to pay more attention to the good, like the wonderful books you've written and all the coaching that you offer, what's the best way for folks to keep up with what you're doing, William?
Okay, the best way to keep up with everything I'm doing is go to Facebook and you go to facebook.com/Coach W.E. Turner. And that's Coach W.E. Turner. After you do the facebook.com, you do the /. Or you can find my books on Amazon, and that's amazon.com/author/WET. And that'll take you right to the page with the books. Or you can just do the search, William Edward Turner, and it'll bring up the books and my page. And I talk about not just how to use the books, because a lot of people get the books and they're thinking, oh man, I thought it was going to be this big, thick book. Well, it's big and thick in the fact that if you do the exercises, you will get the results. And that's the thing, is that oftentimes we want stuff that, is fuzzy. We can read through it and then we think we know it. And that's not the type of books I write. I write books that make you challenge yourself in your way of thinking and add value to you.
Sweet. Well, there you have it, folks. Check out all those links to my man said in the show. They're going to be in the show notes. Check him out. Check out his books, indeed, especially if you're looking to get married this year, especially since a lot of marriages were delayed or postponed from last year, indeed. So make sure that you get that good coach and join that Facebook community too. So any parting words before we close up shop?
Well, my parting words are that everyone stay safe, wear your mask if you need to, and be sure to get that shot, because I'm scheduled about a week or so to get the shot. And I think once we get back to life as, the new life is going to be, after the COVID, I think if we take the time to consider our life versus being like we were before, anything goes, I think we should be able to come out with a better mindset, maybe even more concerned about the love that we have for one another after you're not being able to see your grandma, your niece, or your uncle and cousins and all that kind of thing. I think there's better ahead for us all.
How's it going, my friend? I'm glad you made it to the end. That shows that you really enjoyed what you heard and you are an uncommon finisher. Thanks for giving this show a listen. If you really want to help out the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with someone that you care about or someone that needs to hear this message, because we want to spread this podcast around like butter on bread, if that's your type of thing. And if it's not your type of thing, still spread it around anyway, because good stuff needs to be shared with good people like yourself.